Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good tomorrow, or whatever it is, wherever you are. This is J.P. Smith with a new story of today. One of our great leaders many years ago sent a message to me and told me about this next person I'm going to tell you about. And she said at the time, this is one that made me cry and ask myself, what excuse could I possibly have? It's called From Tragedy to Success, the story of Incorius Johnson, or Inky for short. This was done September the 20th, 2017 by a man named William Mulligan. The Sunday, August 14th newspaper featured a segment on SportsCenter that caught up with the former University of Tennessee defensive back, Incorius Johnson, a promising NFL draft pick who suffered a career-ending injury in 2006 is now a motivational speaker. He was born in Kirkwood on the east side of Atlanta, a neighborhood surrounded by crime, drugs, and gang violence. Growing up in his grandmother's two-bedroom house with 14 people sleeping on the floor with roaches and rats. My mother had me when she was 16 years old, he said, and I used to sleep on the floor, and I had 8 uncles in that same house, and they did everything under the sun, going in and out of prison. My mother worked at Wendy's, and she would get off at work, and I would be about the last kid sitting in the park, and I'd be waiting on my mother, because I didn't want to go home because every other day or every other week, our front door would get kicked in because my uncle was selling drugs. At a young age, he evaluated his surroundings and chose not to sell drugs or join gangs like his uncles did. He made the decision that he would go to the NFL in order to get his family out of their situation. So Incorius and his cousin would race each other every night on their street until one day they were spotted by a football coach who offered him free training. He continued his training every day, and when practice had ended, he would be doing football drills alone in the park. Throughout college, he was told by many that he was too small to join the NFL, that he was going to probably end up in prison like the rest of his family did. But through adversity and struggle, Incorius had made it through college, received a call from his coach that said he was a projected top 30 draft pick, and one season he would become a multimillionaire. He won his first game against the California Bears, and he felt confident going into his second game against the Air Force Falcons. During the game, a routine tackle turned into a life-threatening injury, and his dream of playing in the NFL had been shattered. Today, he's a professional speaker inspiring millions of people across the world. He said, the harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. But who is this young man? September the 9th, 2006 started as a normal college football game in Neyland Stadium in the University of Tennessee. If anything, the event was an afterthought dropped into the schedule at the last minute. For cornerback Incorius Johnson, though, the game changed everything. A routine tackle turned into a life-threatening injury, and nothing has been normal for Incorius ever since. The tackle resulted in a busted subclavicle artery in his chest and tore shoulder ligaments. With a handful of games left in the season, his sights were set on a professional football career, and that wouldn't happen now. Inky Johnson's right arm was paralyzed. He didn't succumb to self-pity, but instead he repurposed his life. The dream of playing in the NFL could not happen, not with a permanently paralyzed right arm, not with daily pain, not with constant physical challenges. His dream has always been to play professional sports. He could have said, my life is over, I'm finished. He could just return home and do what the rest of the family did. You might think his horrendous injury would have destroyed his motivation and crushed his spirits, but it's only because you don't know Inky. Inky Johnson could be described as a survivor of an underprivileged past. He could be described as a refugee of poverty and violence. He could be described as a success story stained by tragedy. But if you look deeper, you'll discover something else. You'll see a man who looks in the face of defeat and says, am I really failing, or is God prevailing? You'll see a man gripped by the promise that God has purposes and plans far beyond our own. And you'll be inspired by his relentless determination, which he loves to impart to others through his dramatic story. Incorius, Inky, returned to his studies, earning a master's degree in sports psychology from the University of Tennessee. He devotes much of his time to mentoring athletes and underprivileged youth. He and his amazing wife, Allison, live in Atlanta, Georgia, with their two beautiful children. Motivation or inspiration? He said motivation is often nothing more than forcing people to do something they don't really want to do. In contrast, inspiration affects people from within, giving them the ability to accomplish what would otherwise be impossible. Through his walk and his talk, INKY Johnson, embodies and imparts a true inspirational message. Not that an injury turned him into an inspiration, it just showed the world the inspirational life he's been living all along. Executives, sports teams, church members, and young people now all benefit from the raw energy of his charismatic speaking. Whether the topic is leadership, teamwork, or perseverance, INKY inspires his audiences to embrace the challenges of life. He said, quote, people get upset not because of the adversity they face, but because their adversity reveals who they really are. Johnson is now a motivational speaker at schools, community centers, and ceremonies throughout the United States. He's been the keynote speaker at numerous events, including the Greater Knoxville Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. That horrendous tackle that day led him into public speaking. Before his presentations, he speaks about the moment his life changed and how his appearance in Midland just might have been God's plan all along without INKY knowing it. He said, I was 8 games away from going to the National Football League, the NFL. I almost lost my life that night. After the initial hit, I didn't think it was that serious. It wasn't until that night when the doctor said, we have to rush him back to surgery. He's going to die. Even after surgery, I didn't think it was life-altering, but he told me I had pretty bad nerve damage. I busted an artery that night, but I also tore all the nerves from the spine to my right arm and my hand, the shoulder, and everything in that area. It wasn't until December when I had my final surgery. They told me my arm and hand would never be the same. I all wanted to use a situation in a positive way. When asked how people respond to his story, he said, it's pretty cool for me because I never planned to speak. I wrote my book, then I got into it. I do about 250 engagements a year. I never wanted to go around and share my insights and experiences. When my career changed, I fell into it. My job changed, but my mission didn't. My mission was always to inspire people and change people's lives. When I speak, someone in the audience needs me. Nothing happens by accident. I'm simply fulfilling God's plan. He was asked, well, what is your message? He said, it's about persevering, but also paying it forward to the next person. We're given mountains to overcome, and then we have to help other people overcome their mountains by guiding them, by sharing our experiences. It's all about giving back to the world and giving back to humanity. People did it for me. I had people along the way with their own struggles who helped me. I struggled when I was a kid, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 14 people and missing meals. So now it's important for me to give back to the world, end quote. He's been asked, were you always a person of faith, or did that happen after your injury? He said, I'm a husband, a father, and a servant of God. I was raised in the church, but my faith definitely got stronger and fortified after the injury. It was a test of my faith, a test in what I believed. I had to really believe that I was reading and studying. I've always been religious, but my injury made me lock on to it that much more. When asked what are the differences between speaking to youth audiences and adult audiences, his answer was kids and adults are at different levels in life. The motivations are different. When I speak to kids, it's about making choices in the people you hang around. It's about appreciating what you have right now. Sometimes kids don't appreciate the people that believe in them. I think it's important that they do that and honor those people and make them proud. This world today knows this young Christian, this hero, this INKY Johnson, simply as INKY Johnson. The never-to-be-forgotten cornerback for the Tennessee Volunteers college football team in the USA. He says, some of my greatest lessons in life came from pain. And the thing I've learned about it is that the ability to learn is a gift, even if the pain is your teacher. Folks, you may not have ever heard about Inky Johnson before now, but I guarantee you one thing, you will. Because he is now one of the most sought after speakers in America today as he travels from school to school, from event to event with the simple message that, quote, you can be anything you want to be no matter who you are and no matter what circumstances you were born into, end quote. Another of his famous quotes is, quote, there are only two options. You can make progress or you can make excuses. Another is, rock bottom has built way more championships than privilege. He said, quote, no matter how dedicated you are, there's always somebody on the inside of you that is more dedicated. No matter how committed you are, there's somebody on the inside of you that is more committed. You think commitment is just saying, yes, I'll do it. But what commitment is staying true to what you said you were going to do long after the mood that you've set it in has left. Meaning on the days that you don't feel like doing what you said you would do, you get up and you do it anyway. That's what builds character. God bless Inky as he continues his journey and fulfills his destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, when things don't happen for you just the right time you want it to, when you encounter little setbacks, little delays in your dreams coming true, when you go out and the car won't start, or the car has a flat tire, or 1,000 other little nuisances that happen and you begin to feel sorry for yourself. Just imagine that young man lying on the field with the coaches and the team doctors around him, encircling Inky Johnson, and the ambulance arrives on the sidelines and everyone taking a collective breath and holding it because they know that something drastic has happened to this brave young warrior. And you need to think to yourself, there, but for the grace of God, go I. Ladies and gentlemen, think about this, and you won't ever let yourself be defeated for even one day with a little setbacks in life. Keep the blinders on. Stay focused. Stay dedicated. Stay committed like young Inky Johnson. Stay the course. You can see that light right now. That light is illuminating a future unlike anything you could ever have imagined. And this time it's not that proverbial train coming towards you. It is the sunlight of a whole new day. God bless you all. Make it an awesome day. And as Mr. Paul Harvey would say, now you know the rest of the story. Thanks for tuning in today, folks. Looking forward to seeing you all in the winner's circle. God bless you, each and every one. Make it a great one. Talk to you later. Bye-bye for now.